Sandra Orlando, General Manager of Lendlease Construction, New South Wales. Welcome to Digital Dialogue. How are you?
Good, thanks, Adam. How are you?
I'm excellent. I have to start off by saying we've got a bit of a celebrity factor here with us today. I did see you on the news and the telly recently talking about one of the milestones that was reached as part of the construction of the powerhouse at Parramatta. Why don't we start by talking us through where things are at with that project? I know a lot of us are excited about seeing that magnificent facility come out of the ground.
So it is an exciting milestone for us. We're starting to finally start looking up. Obviously, there's a fair amount of groundworks and it is a unique site, which is along the riverbank, which we've all been well aware of. So nearly out of the ground, major steel components ready to arrive. They're already in the country. So come the end of this month, we'll start installing the extensive mega pieces of structural steel. So really exciting period to be in. And I'm a bit worried we're going to cause a bit of a gridlock along the streets when everyone stops to see what's going on, but really exciting to see the museum coming out of the ground.
Couldn't be any worse than what it used to be on Thursday nights along each street there with the traffic and the cars. So it is an exciting project, and you guys are doing some great work. And I understand everything's on track for perhaps an opening middle of next year.
Yeah, so aiming towards the end of next year. So obviously very exciting, the regional schools and local schools very excited to spend a night at the museum. So we're still talking to Powerhouse on how that's going to be. My daughter keeps nagging me once a week. She wants to be the first person to sleep a night at the museum. So we're trying to figure out how to make that happen. So
it's I think there's a lot of people that can't wait to see. There's a lot of work, a lot of advocacy, including the stuff that the dialogue's done over the years to push hard for that, and it'll be a big day when that finally arrives. It's not the only project you guys are working on. For those that don't know, obviously Lendlease has a long and storied connection to the region. If you want to talk us through some of that.
Yeah, so we create places for everybody, and obviously with our construction, development and investment businesses, we shape cities and create communities and deliver workplaces for the future. Okay, so I started my career at Lendlease as a grad engineer over 24 years ago, and I've always been in the construction business, and now I'm the general manager. We've got a strong connection to Western Sydney, more recently with the successful delivery of CommBank Stadium, and obviously we're working on Powerhouse, Parramatta Museum and Liverpool Hospital at the moment. A bit of trivia for you, Adam. So the very office...
Always love a bit of trivia.
I love a bit of trivia. The very same site office that we're working in at the moment for Powerhouse Parramatta was the exact same office we used as Lendlease's Civil and Civic Western Sydney office in 1983. And one of my team members started as an apprentice 40 years ago in that office, and he's now the senior site manager on Powerhouse. So he's a very enthusiastic guy, and we're hoping his passion for construction will inspire the 4,000 people that will be employed indirectly and directly on the museum. So I'm pretty excited to create those opportunities.
Parramatta's changed a bit in those 40 years too. So a few buildings there that weren't there back then.
Yep, definitely. So and to be able to be part of building a iconic cultural piece in Western Sydney, which didn't happen in my lifetime, hasn't happened today. Really privileged to do that.
Yeah, you mentioned not just Lendlease, but yourself personally. I know a bit of a reputation as a Western Sydney girl within Lendlease. What are your ties to the area, and what have you seen change over the years in Western Sydney?
Yeah, so I've grown up my whole life in southwest Sydney, so very proud of that. For example, my primary school, there was 4 primary school classes. 3 of those all had English as a second language. 3 of the 4 classes, I was in one of those. That taught me a lot of things. It taught me to listen, adapt and leverage differing thoughts to achieve the best outcome. So I'm very privileged to be able to work on these projects to give back to Western Sydney community that's given me and my family so much. When I started my career, I had to travel up to generally 3 hours a day back and forward to different sites around Sydney. And so pleased to be able to do major infrastructure social projects like Liverpool and Powerhouse Parramatta within our own backyard. So so our people don't have to commute so much.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, one of the great things that I've always found about Lendlease, and we've seen it through a number of your projects, especially in Western Sydney, is that there's a strong focus on not just building with bricks and mortar, but actually building capacity, particularly through your industry and community partnerships and work like the Skills Exchange in partnership with TAFE. What are some of the rewarding aspects that you get to see with your work outside of obviously seeing these big developments and plans come to life?
So exactly to your point, we're not about just building the building and taking off. So we've had at St Mary's, the St Mary's Hub operating for 17 years. So what that has done, it's created over 6,000 jobs for the local community over that time. That takes a whole lot of passionate people who've got trusted partnerships with the community, but it's been a great success. We are doing something quite similar at the Liverpool Hospital redevelopment project. So last week we celebrated our first year of the Barraga Goal Hub. And what that hub does is we've got at the moment 7 programs in both construction, health and first aid, creating pathway opportunities for disadvantaged youth. So I think it's an amazing program. They get to do small stints of different programs to really open up their appetite for a different field that they may be interested in. So to be able to give that back is very exciting. At Powerhouse, so we've committed to in excess of 70% of the workforce being from Western Sydney. So, you know, it's a great opportunity to involve the whole community.
Absolutely. I don't think you can overstate the significant and meaningful impact that those projects are delivering, not just in terms of the buildings, but actually the work that's happening with those kids in Western Sydney. Just wrapping up, tomorrow is International Women's Day. You mentioned earlier that you're 20 plus years in the construction industry. Tell us a little bit about your experience working in that sector and how far you think it's come and maybe how far you still think it has to go. And what's your advice to maybe young women thinking of a career in this sector?
So I think I'm very fortunate that I was exposed to construction and engineering at a young age. So my parents arrived in Australia straight to Western Sydney many years ago. And they had to work extremely hard to create opportunities for themselves. My dad became an engineer and ran his own construction company for over 30 years. That triggered a love for construction in me that's never wavered. And I forced him to drag me from site to site on weekends and school holidays and everything else. I think he was hoping my brother would be interested, but it was me. So I was very fortunate to find my love for construction and engineering at a young age. I was then, you know, with the influence of him and university, kept being told Civil and Civic Lendlease were the biggest and the best construction company in Australia. And I was adamant that that was the only business I wanted to work for. So 24 years later, I'm still here in construction doing what I love to do. And I think I've been very blessed to be in an organisation that genuinely gives equal opportunity for those who work hard and deserve it. So I think many organisations can chase quotas. And I think if you need that, you know, that's one way of achieving it. But I know there are multiple senior executives in Lendlease Construction who are female who've been here for over 20 years. And doing that through merit-based performance is what really sets up a diverse and inclusive culture. And I think we've definitely got that here.
Well, you're doing a great job, Sandra. Western Sydney and Lendlease is very lucky to have you. Thank you very much for your time this morning. See you soon.
Thanks, Adam.